In this video, I'm going to show you how to check the clutch reserve on a 2002 Ford Mustang GT according to the Ford factory manual.
The first thing you want to do is check the clutch cable for any obvious signs of wear or damage. By popping the hood, you can see the clutch cable, or at least the top portion of it, and it appears to be in good shape. You also want to check that all points of attachment are intact and secure. There are 3 points, but from this view you can only see the bulkhead connector, and that appears to be good. You'll have to get under the car to inspect the rest of the cable, and the lower portion of the cable looks to be in good shape. The second point of attachment is a cable clip, about midway down the cable, and that seems to be good too. The last point of attachment is where the cable enters the transmission. You can't see it in this view, but it's good. The next step Ford wants you to do is pointless, because the procedure they outline in step 2 is completely bogus. They want you to loosen the clutch pedal shaft nut, then pull up on the clutch pedal as high as you can. Then, while holding it in that position, retighten the nut to 30 foot-pounds. The reason this procedure is completely bogus and idiotic is because the clutch pedal lever has a squared-off hole that fits over a squared-off section of the shaft, and the very end of the shaft is turned down and threaded. So basically the nut secures the clutch pedal lever to the shaft by tightening it against the shoulder created by the squared-off section. Now 30 foot-pounds is completely adequate to secure the clutch pedal lever to the shaft, but won't do much to prevent the clutch pedal lever from rotating independently of the shaft. The squared-off hole and squared-off section of the shaft accomplish that. If you follow the procedure outlined in step 2, all you'll do is shift whatever play there is between the squared-off hole and the squared-off section of the shaft to the other side. But as soon as you step on the clutch pedal, the excess play will go right back to where it was before you conducted this procedure. If you're not convinced, go ahead and do it. It won't cause any harm. It's just a waste of time. Now, unlike step 2, which was completely pointless, step 3 is extremely important. By completing this step, not only will you be able to determine that the quadrant is working properly, you will also ensure that the cable has the proper amount of tension, and that the throwout bearing has the proper preload, which is critical for an accurate measurement of the clutch reserve. You need to get under the dashboard and pull up on the clutch pedal until the pole fully releases from the quadrant. Then, while holding the pedal up so the pole remains disengaged from the quadrant, reach up with the other hand and rotate the quadrant. You should be able to rotate the quadrant independently of the clutch shaft lever, but under the tension of the torsion spring. Once you've confirmed the quadrant is working properly, release the pedal and ensure the pole has fully re-engaged. If everything checks out, you know the quadrant is working properly, and the clutch linkage is now adjusted to factory specs. Now that you've completed these preliminary steps, you can go ahead and measure the clutch reserve.
The next step is to take a tape measure and run your tape measure through your steering wheel. Get a wire tie and put your wire tie through the nail slot of your tape measure. Then take your tape measure, hook it under your clutch pedal, take your wire tie and secure it to the bottom of the, basically you're going underneath the clutch pedal. About the bottom 3/4 section is where it's going to wind up, and that's pretty much where they show it in the diagram on the factory manual. So you can get that so that doesn't interfere with your foot. Okay, so there you are, attached to your clutch pedal. I mean, you could just hook it there, but you're putting your foot on there, you probably wind up kicking the tape measure off. So it'd make a hassle. All right. Now the next step is to take if we come around to this side, you can see a little bit clearer. I'll move the camera over to the other side. Now, Ford says to use the inside seam of your steering wheel as your reference point. Now, as you can see right now, if we're looking here, the inside seam's about 24 1/8 up here, I got definitely 24 1/4. So there's about an 1/8 of an inch variation. If you want to be a little bit more accurate, you make a cross here on a piece of masking tape, and put the cross here right where your seam is. And as long as you don't turn the steering wheel while you're doing your measurements, you know, up and down, you'll have a fairly accurate measurement. So here you go. Here I got roughly 24 3/16. Also, it's not really that critical. But anyway, so we'll hold the tape measure there. That's my reference point, and that's what we'll go by. Next, you start it because you normally would. Push the clutch pedal all the way down. Start the car. Now it doesn't matter. I move the steering wheel now. It matters when you're doing it, when you're actually taking your measurements. And it's the last. The measurements are the final step. So now, while your clutch pedal is still down, you shift into reverse, but you stop halfway. So go from neutral to reverse, and stop about halfway there. Now, slowly let up on the clutch. If the car goes backwards, you went too far. You're in reverse. Just go a little bit, then move it a little forwards. And then slowly let up on the clutch. You're not in neutral. Halfway between neutral and reverse. Slowly let up on the clutch. And now, what you've done is you've bypassed the reverse synchros. So you're not in a position that your gear shift normally would be in. You're halfway between neutral and reverse, but your transmission behaves as if it's in neutral. The next step you do is you pull on the shift lever towards reverse until you hear gear clash. Alright? And keep in mind, the gear shift, the lever's not in the position it normally is in, so you don't have to push over and back like you normally would to get into reverse. You're just pulling towards reverse because you're already halfway there. So just pull towards reverse until you hear the gear clash. Now, while you hear the gear clash, push down on the clutch. I'm exaggerating a little bit. You don't have to make that much noise, but I want to make sure you can hear it on the recording. And you push down on the clutch pedal while watching the tape measure until you stop hearing that gear clash. And about right there, I stop hearing it. And that's about 30 and, let's say they're a little over 30 3/4. 30 and 13/16. Now, the next step, after you've you record that measurement. So 30 and 13/16. Then you put your car in neutral, doesn't matter. At this point now, you take one more measurement. Push the clutch pedal all the way to the floor. And you take that measurement. And I got, if I'm lucky,
30 and 7/8.
You take those two measurements, you subtract your first measurement from your second measurement, the difference there, you take the difference, and that is your clutch reserve. In this case, it's 1/16 if I'm lucky, barely. According to Ford, you should have 3/4 of an inch clutch reserve. Now, what does that mean? It means my clutch needs to be replaced. That's the test. That's all there is to it. Now, the truth is, if your clutch pedal like mine, if you got to push your clutch all the way to the floor to shift, which is the case with my car, obviously, it definitely needs to be replaced. But, you know, I'll do this test again when I put the new clutch in and see actually if I get 3/4 of an inch. That sounds like a lot. That's pretty good. They're saying that's what it should be. If it's less than 3/4, you should replace your clutch. That doesn't quite sound right to me, but that's what the Ford manual says. Anyway, that's all there is to it. That's how you would check your clutch reserve.